Good afternoon, Patriots. This is the American Vision broadcast on the TLBTV network and brought to you by the Liberty Beacon Project. I'm your host, Bill Muckler, and I'm coming to you from my home studio in Cocoa, Florida. And today, I'm very excited to have with me a guest, Jerry Kerr, who is involved in the Segs for Vets program. And this is a highly acclaimed nonprofit organization. It awards Segways and ALLY Chair adapted Segways to men and women of the United States military who have sustained severe injuries resulting in permanent disability. While the program's historical focus has been on those who have served in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom and Operation Enduring Freedom, it has since been able to broaden its support to other disabled veterans and to meet specific criteria. So let me introduce you, Jerry Kerr, who's coming from St. Louis, Missouri.
Good morning, Bill. How are you?
I'm doing very good. Thank you for being a guest on our show.
It's a pleasure, and I appreciate the opportunity to kind of spread the word about what we're doing.
Yeah. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself and then how you got into helping vets? Because this show here is all about helping vets ourselves.
Well, in 1998, I was a real estate developer and a home builder, and really didn't give much thought to people with disabilities, but I had my own little epiphany and broke my neck in a diving accident, and was never expected to do very well. My prognosis was that I would never again move from the neck down. And while I am certainly neurologically impacted from the neck down, I developed the ability to at least stand for a short period of time. And so ultimately, I wanted to explore technologies and things that would benefit me as a new person with a disability, because it was a world I knew nothing about. And it started out with a retired Army neurosurgeon replacing my C4 vertebrae, which was broken into 17 pieces with a cadaver bone. And then it progressed to voice recognition technology and learning about universal design and the impact of technology on people with disabilities. And then I discovered this thing called the iBot, which was this mythical chair that Dean Kamen was developing that would hopefully allow those that were in wheelchairs seated to be able to be raised up and have the ability to then interact with other people eye to eye. One never quite contemplates the impact emotionally and psychologically of viewing the world at waist level. And I'm being very generous when I say waist level. So, it's a different perspective, and people look over the top of you, and they don't understand that you're even there, and they don't even understand the world that you see and how your perspective is completely different than theirs. And so when the Segway came out, I ordered one, and I didn't know if I could use it. And when I showed up for training, they looked at me in a wheelchair and said, "Hey, brother, we'll give you your money back because you're probably not going to be able to use this, but you know what? I could use it." It was remarkably like standing on a walker. And moreover, I was really accustomed to having wheels sticking out from my sides, unlike other folks in the world. And so I started using this Segway, and it had such a dramatic impact on my life, both physically, because I was now standing more often, using muscles and things, my paraspinals and hip flexors and those things that I had not used for years, that I was now engaging, and it was starting to come back a little bit. And so the physical impact was healthier. My bowels improved, my blood pressure improved, my circulation improved. but also my psychological perspective improved, because now I was engaging and interacting with the world at eye level, at the same height that they were. And so as we were starting this process of using these new technologies, we faced all of these challenges from businesses that wouldn't allow us to come in because they said, that's a toy. But without it, I couldn't move. And ultimately, I started talking about and speaking about universal design and technology that improve the lives of people with disabilities and the aging American generation, the baby boomer generation that was at that time in 2003 getting ready in a few short years to start turning age 65 at the rate of about 75,000 people a week, and that's still going on today. And I was speaking in Italy in 2005 at a no barrier symposium over there that was put on by a group of guys that were connected with MIT, and we had a bunch of vets that had come up to this symposium who had been injured in Afghanistan and Iraq, and they started using a Segway, and the impact on them was remarkable. The impact on them psychologically. And so when I came back, I said, you know what? I'd like to give one of those away to a veteran just because symbolically I had a retired Army neurosurgeon that saved my life and changed my perspective. And also because without them, people with disabilities would have no future. Without them, as Americans, we would have no future. And so it was very important to those of us that were involved with this project to find a veteran. And so I got a hold of General Eberhardt and through his assistance started to find people that we could identify as candidates to give one away. And then we quickly found out that because of the regulatory environment in the federal government, we weren't allowed to. The ethics regulations, they said, hey, you can't give something to someone that's on the active duty over $50, and I think it's $1,100 a year. I was told a joke once that they said, in the government, we got good news and we got bad news. The good news is that it falls under the regulatory requirements. The bad news is it's worth less than $50, so it's not going to be much of a gift. And so, but we found out that by working with who then Senator Talent and a bunch of folks at over the Office of Secretary of Defense and the Surgeon General's offices of the Army and the Navy and the Air Force, that the legislation has actually already been passed in 2001 to allow this to happen. What we had to do was get the Secretary of Defense to write the regulations to put it into effect. And as we worked through this process, we actually, because of the way we were doing things or wanted to do things, we became the only organization to have ever received, and that is still true today, a waiver, a determinational letter exempting us from the ethics regulations, which allow us to now award a device that's remarkably cost about $10,000 for the whole training and everything to anyone that meets criteria. We then set up assessment and training programs at Walter Reed and at the Center for the Intrepid down in San Antonio. And eventually at the Naval Medical Center in San Diego to be able to train and identify individuals, men and women coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan who could utilize the Segway. And it would positively impact their lives. And that's kind of how we got started. So by 2007, we had started having 2 award presentations a year in Washington, D.C., and 2 in San Diego and 2 in San Antonio. We're all volunteers, and so these volunteers were giving up upwards of 30 days of their life a year to make sure these men and women had the technology that would allow them to improve their quality of life, improve their mobility, allow them to do things that they wouldn't otherwise be able to do.
And Jerry, I know that you really got this program started in 2005. And since then, I believe you've given out more than 2,000, or you've awarded more than 2,000 Segways to vets. And I see that some of them are modified to fit the vet's certain condition or his situation. And maybe you could talk a little bit about that, because that obviously is expensive, and it takes a lot of skill and technology to work out also.
Well, that's true. And you know, we assess every single individual, their needs, their abilities, and we make minor modifications to Segways all the time. But what happened was there were more and more men and women, but mostly men, coming back with injuries that were so severe, mostly through IEDs, where the explosion had taken their legs well above their knees, perhaps sometimes at the hip, and they had no possibility of using prosthetics, or zero possibility of using them productively. Just because we put them on them doesn't necessarily mean they can use them, but many couldn't use them at all. And so we would go to Walter Reed and the Center for the Intrepid, and we would have these folks that would come up to us and say, "Hey, what about me? I don't have any legs." And I said, "Well, if you can't wear prosthetics, I can't put you on a Segway." But over time, we developed, through the assistance of another guy, a thing called the ALLY Chair. And we actually manufacture this now. It's only available through us. It's called the ALLY Chair. And it's an adapted Segway that allows the Segway to be transformed into a device that can be used while sitting. Now, I got to tell you something. This thing is the most extraordinary gift to a person in a wheelchair that you can imagine. I mean, I can't describe it to you any other way than to say it's a game changer. It's not available through insurance. It's not available through anybody else. But we started awarding this to people and started manufacturing. It cost us $15,000, $16,000 to do that. It's a lot of money. But it's such a minimal amount of money when you see the impact that it has on the lives of these folks. I'm telling you, it's extraordinary. They go places they never could have gone before. And so the ALLY Chair Adapted Segway, you know, it's something that you don't see much because it's only available to the veterans, the disabled veterans. We've opened it up to Vietnam era veterans. We've got several of those that are now using it. It's wild to see an 80-year-old colonel go flying down a beach in an ALLY Chair and having the time of his life. I mean, it's just literally extended their reach, extended their productive years, extended their independence, and made life a hell of a lot of fun.
And like you said, talking about yourself, all the things that it's done for you to help you just become healthier, I guess, and live a healthier life. To me, all these things, there's just so many benefits. It's just unreal.
You know, people don't grasp the challenges that our men and women, our young men and women, our not so young men and women who have served us, that they face every single day. And I'm talking about just the effort to get out of bed. I'm not talking about the emotional effort. I'm not talking about not wanting to get out of bed. I'm talking about the physical effort they have to make to get themselves out of bed, to get themselves showered, to get themselves dressed, to go through the activities of daily living. The energy that it takes them in comparison to someone who does not have a disability is extraordinary. And if we can change that one component, that mobility component in their life, I mean, it's great. I mean, it's such a gift, such a gift.
Yeah, it's just, and what you're doing is just so amazing. And I'm so thankful because, I'm a vet, but fortunately, I don't have any disabilities and I'm in pretty good shape. But I want to make sure that all the rest of the vets are. And I've been involved with a lot of different groups and a lot of different Marines who are very concerned about PTSD and the fact that there's more than 20 vets committing suicide every day. And I can imagine that how their spirits can be lifted. And you've lifted, more than 2,000 of them. That's got to help in all aspects of their lives.
Well, it does. And moreover, it changes their family dynamics. Bill, I talked about this, as you know, a couple of weeks ago, we had a presentation at the Cardinals game.
Yes.
And it's something we do every year with the St. Louis Cardinals. The camaraderie that exists by bringing these men and women together that they lost when they left the military, that in and of itself, finding a pathway to gather together. And in our case, we have so many of our past recipients and their family members who volunteer for the organization and stay involved and get involved as liaisons with new members and new recipients and new family members. We learn a lot about them. We learn about their troubles, and when they're together as a group, they do better. They all have challenges. We all have challenges in life. They have a little darker side that they have to deal with, and they go home. And how many people in their hometown have ever been in the military? It's such a small percentage that there's no one that they can talk to and that understands them. And so when you start to chip away, there's no magic bullet. There's no easy solution. It's a combination of a lot of little things. It's about somebody reaching out and saying, hey, I know what you're going through, or hey, just checking on them, saying hi. I mean, maybe just that one thing. But the biggest thing you can do for a guy, a gal who's lost their mobility is to give it back to them. The cool thing about our organization is that we really don't want to be in business. And, we've been doing this since 2005, my exit strategy was that the VA'd come along and see what we were doing, think it was such a great thing, they'd take it away from me. And when I found out, the VA looked at it and said, that's such a great thing, we don't want anything to do with it. So the reality is we don't have an exit strategy. We just keep doing it. We never want to take a dollar more than we need. Which means that we always need more money. And so we don't devote any money to fundraising, or very little. And so this issue is so important. It's so impactful that I have assembled a great number of volunteers, most of them, or many of them, retired military members, including 4-star generals and Medal of Honor recipients and people in the military medical community. It just goes on and on and on, because there's nothing quite like seeing the impact of what you've done, of the money that was gifted to you immediately. Right there in front of your face, you see this transformation.
Yeah, that's just amazing. And when you're talking about the financing, I think a lot of people are wondering, okay, where does the financing come from that you're able to do all this? Because, and from what I understand, you have more than 400 vets that you have in an ongoing help program. Maybe you could talk a little bit about that also.
I'm glad you brought that up, because, those are one of those things that when we started this back in 2005, we really did it understand or grasp that we were giving these folks something that they didn't have any other way to get. And that's certainly true of the ALLY Chair, because there's no place to get it except from us. And so what happens when they need a new one? What happens when it breaks down? What happens when their batteries go bad? And so now that we have this alumni, if you will, this great, huge family, we have to continue to take care of them. If we'd never given them a Segway or an ALLY Chair, that'd have been one thing. But now that we've given them, we kind of have a responsibility to try to make sure that they can use it, that they can continue to follow the path that this new life has given them. So every year, the support services component of our organization grows, and I suspect that will be true because now we have Segways that were awarded in 2005 and 2006 and 2007 that have to be replaced. We have ALLY Chairs that cost $15,000, $16,000 that have to be replaced, so all the time we're trying to encourage them to set aside funds, and many of them do, and sometimes they try to take care of these things on their own, but oftentimes that's just not a possibility. And for all of us, the budgets are constrained, and that's a tool that they use, but when it breaks down, they don't have any place else to turn but at us.
Mm-hmm.
So raising those dollars, the number of dollars that we have to spend taking care of the fleet, if you will, means we can only give away less, because we can't give away additional machines knowing that we don't have the money to take care of them.
Yeah, that's really an important point. So your organization is just an ongoing organization, and you said you wish that you could get out of it. And I think you probably wish that there were no more vets that you would need to give them to. But that's just not reality right now. And the reality is there's a lot of guys, and I know a lot of vets myself, that just, they need help in one way or another. And when somebody gives them that help, it's just so awe-inspiring. And what you're doing is just inspiring, I think, to everybody to think about, we can all get involved and volunteer and help.
I think for all of us, at least those folks that are involved with the organization, we're all volunteers, and we've all had good lives. We all not only do dedicate our time, about 35 cents of every dollar we spend every year comes from our advisory board and our board members, which means we're putting our money where our mouth is. But Bill, and I know you know this, and probably everybody that's watching your show knows this, without these men and women, without their sacrifice, without their dedication to service, we wouldn't have any of this. We wouldn't be sitting here able to do the things that we do. And I can assure you that that's something that we have to try to talk about, because every generation we get better at defending ourselves, but less people get involved. And the less people involved, the less money is devoted to the cause. And so it's important for that word to be spread often and far.
Yeah, when you're talking about how many, in my book that I wrote, I did a chapter on the military, and we have about 1.8 million people in the United States involved in the military, only about 1.3 to 1.4 million on active duty, and those numbers change a little bit. So that's really only about 0.5% of the entire population of the country. And you mentioned before about when they come back, they may be the only ones, and they're trying to get along. And when you're in the service, and especially our guys and gals that are in combat, you grow such a close bond to each other. You're closer than a family could be, and you're looking out for each other's lives every day. I mean, it just grows so strong. And then to come back and you're all alone, and on at the baseball game when I was watching the Cardinals game, and you know, you had the vets there and everything. I thought, boy, what a wonderful thing. They get a chance to get together, and they're all out there, and they just looked like they were so happy about it. It was just thrilling.
Let me tell you, there's nothing quite like the St. Louis Cardinals event every year when we do this, because you know the crowd is up there, and you know things are going on, and I said on the radio with Dan McLaughlin, I said, "This is America here, brother. This is America, because you're down there at a baseball game, and a choir of school children sing the national anthem, and then they begin to announce these injured veterans, and the crowd kind of comes to a hush, and they pay attention. I mean, they pay attention, and then the huge roar, but then as they proceed out the wagon gate, which is out on the right field line, they just stand up, standing ovation. It's just, I mean, it gives you goose pimples. I mean, you know, it is a highly emotional, and for those guys, for those of us that know the Cardinals and know the Cardinal Nation and the fans, you know, they're rabid baseball fans, and but they're also rabid Americans, and boy, I tell you what, it couldn't have been a warmer environment for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know, and when I saw that, and then I wanted to learn more, and then I saw your interview with Dan, and I thought, oh gosh, I really want to learn more now, and that's when I reached out, and I thought, gosh, I would love to be able to talk with you and have you bring this to more people than just the Cardinals audience.
Well, we're certainly delighted to have the opportunity to share it with folks, and try to every chance we get. But you know, there's a lot of competition for charitable dollars, and there's some great charities out there, and then there are some that perhaps aren't as good as they should be. But you know, I can assure you when you make a donation to Segs for Vets, that the money's going to go where it's supposed to go, and it's going to have the impact that we tell you it's going to have.
Yeah, and I'd like to bring up something in this, and also I wanted to thank ALLY Gaines for helping us arrange this and everything, and taking care of all this and setting this up. And in her email she sent me, it has listed in here that Segs for Vets is a recipient of the Office of the Secretary of Defense's Spirit of Hope Award.
That's right.
Congratulations. Wow, that's fantastic. And you're certified as one of America's best charities. I want to really emphasize that, one of America's best charities, because sometimes we give money and we find out the charity isn't really sending the money where it needs to go. And also that you're a member of the Military Family and Veterans Services Service Organizations of America. So
that's correct.
There's no question that you're really involved in helping our vets.
Well, you know, we have this thing, service, honor, and purity of purpose, and Colonel Barnum, who is a United States Marine Corps Medal of Honor recipient, General Everhart and General Hornberg and all the rest of them, that's a statement that we make when we say service, honor, and purity of purpose. We're going to hold up to it, and so you know, I tell people we have a standard of excellence that we strive for and fail at every single day, and get up tomorrow and try it again, because you know, you got to try and you got to hold high standards, otherwise you fail.
Yeah. Now, if anybody wants to learn about your organization, I know you have a website, www.segs4, and that's the letter 4 and number 4, numeral 4, vets.ngo, and this video will be embedded in an article, so there'll be links to all that. But if somebody misses that, it's www.segs4 vets.ngo, segsforvets.ngo, and I would encourage everybody to go to your webpage, because I've gone there several times. I've learned so much. That's why I felt like I needed this, so I could talk with you about this. But I learned so much about it, and the fantastic job you guys are doing.
Well, thank you. Yeah, we have a little video on the webpage that people should watch. Colonel Barnum's on there, and a couple of our recipients. There's nothing like hearing it from the recipients, but pictures say a lot.
Yeah, there was one picture I was trying to get it copied into my my green screen, my drop screen, so I could show it as background. It showed the vets with their family members standing in front of the Marine Corps Iwo Jima Memorial in Washington D.C., and that really got to this old Marine.
Everybody, we do presentations at the Alamo every Veterans Day. We used to do them at the Marine Corps War Memorial or the Iwo Jima Memorial every year, and then also aboard the Midway, USS Midway, out in San Diego.
Yeah.
But it's a funny thing. Everybody, Colonel Barnum and all you Marines seemed like that Iwo Jima Memorial better.
Yeah, I guess that's something that we're really very proud of. What can you tell us about things that you have in the future, or is it just doing more of moving vets into Segways?
Well, I mean, as always, we're going to continue to pursue our mission of providing Segways and ALLY Chair adapted Segways to those folks. The ALLY Chair is something because we manufacture it. We're continually trying to improve that product so that that it can benefit more people or benefit those that are using it better. We also are huge believers in universal design and its impact on our disabled veterans and our aging population. Bill, there's better ways, more sustainable ways than providing to provide a higher quality of life and a longer independent life than through medical means. Sometimes we can do it through better design. And that's, of course, something that's an organization we're very interested in, because it allows us to find economically sustainable solutions for our society. Homes that are built better. When you go home as a disabled veteran, we have guys that we're building now, the Sanish Foundation and other groups like them that are building accessible homes for the guys. That in and of itself is a huge challenge, to have a home that is accessible. And the more we can utilize the principles of universal design, designing things that are for everyone, whether you're 7 years old or 70, or whether you're a track star or in a wheelchair. Those are things and component parts. And then we're also interested in the regulatory environment that will allow us to continue to use these devices so that we don't have access issues.
Okay, very good. Well, Jerry, thank you so much for sharing your time with us and sharing your story. And thank you so much for helping our vets. God bless our vets, and God bless you and all your volunteers for everything that you do.
Thanks, Bill. Appreciate it.
Okay, boys and girls, I'm back for a little commercial here. As you know, Segs for Vets is a nonprofit organization. They're all volunteers, so they need some funds. And after the show, I talked with Jerry a little bit, and I put together a plan, and I'll get this out to everybody. What I'm going to do is anybody that buys one of my books between now and the 4th of July, I'm going to give you some time to scrape some money together. My book is $20. Now, you all don't know about this, but it cost me $18 to make this book. And so, I'm not making any money off of this. and I'm a volunteer for a lot of vets organizations, and just like Jerry and his organization are all volunteers. So what I'm going to do is, if anybody orders a book or books, that would be good. I will sign them personally. I'll inscribe them to you personally, individually, and I will mail them to you, and I will pay the shipping and handling, and I will pay the taxes, and I will still donate 50% of the proceeds of the book to SEGs for Vets. And what I want to do is I want to encourage you to go to their website, www.segs4vets.ngo, and learn about this organization and help and maybe you might even be able to find a way to work with them or help them, or maybe you have an organization that would like to be involved with them. I don't know anything about how that would work, but if you go to their website, you can contact them just like I did, and you can go ahead and give them all the help you can, because they're just changing the lives of vets. Just like a lot of the other videos I've done recently with some Marines and other veterans, helping to help our vets. They did so much for us. They sacrificed so much for us. And so God bless all of our vets. God bless all of our active duty personnel for sure. God bless our Corps. And God bless Jerry and his organization. I'm starting to run out of things. God bless America, and God save our America. We need you now more than ever before.